I am Dr. Heather Moore, owner of Total Performance Physical Therapy. Tonight we're going to talk about how to fix shoulder impingement. Shoulder impingement, let's first talk about what it is. It's kind of what it sounds. It's a pinching that happens in your shoulder. So when you have shoulder impingement, a lot of times when you go up above 90 degrees, you're going to get a pinching. Could be a pain, just that not feeling so good as you raise your arm up. The higher you get, the more it's going to hurt. So basically anything above here is going to start to pinch, it's going to start to squeeze, it's going to start to not be comfortable. So that's what we define as shoulder impingement. Now, there could be shoulder tendonitis in there also. There could be a rotator cuff tear. I'm not saying that just because you have pain when you lift your arm up overhead that you definitely have shoulder impingement. It could be a couple of things. So just note that, just because you have pain going up, it could be shoulder impingement. It could be also shoulder impingement, tendonitis, and a rotator cuff tear. So you could have all three going on at once too. So this is not a way to diagnose it because you have pain lifting overhead, but it is a way to kind of, start diagnosing it and kind of figure out what's going on. So shoulder impingement is just a pinching that goes on. What happens is you have a little bit of a muscle. Some of us a little bit bigger. We have a muscle that goes through basically this bone here, which is your humerus, and this bone here, which is the top of your shoulder blade. As you raise your arm, that muscle starts to get pinched off. So as you lift, the area that muscle would run through starts to get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it starts to pinch the muscle. So impingement is a double-edged sword because generally shoulder pain will start as impingement, and it will go to a tendonitis, and then it will actually go to a rotator cuff tear. So it is very important that if you're experiencing this pain, that you want to make sure that you seek treatment because it's not something that should be ignored. It can lead to a very poor outcome if you ignore it, meaning it could lead to a tear, it could lead to frozen shoulder. So if you are experiencing any shoulder pain and you want a free consultation with one of our doctors of physical therapy, all you have to do is call our office at 215-997-9898 and we'll get you right in. But aside from that, you want to make sure that as you're raising your arm, okay, that you're going to look for certain things. And we're going to go over how you eliminate that pinching and how you get rid of that pinching. But what that pinching is it's just that muscle that's right in this little tunnel between this bone and this bone. And as you lift, that tunnel gets smaller. So what happens is as you lift and this tunnel gets smaller, it starts to pinch that muscle. So that's the pinching pain. The problem that lies is that as you pinch that muscle, the more and more you pinch that muscle, the more and more inflamed that muscle gets. Then you start to develop this tendonitis. Well, now you have a nice thick muscle in there because it's swollen. Now it starts to actually tear because instead of having some breathing room in there, it has no breathing room. So you wind up with that tearing, almost that sawing action, and you can wind up with that rotator cuff tear. So why does that start to pinch all of a sudden? What happens? What are the mechanics behind it? So one of the things that we need to go over first and foremost, and we talk about this in a lot of our other videos, but it's so important with shoulder impingement, is if you don't correct posture, you're not going to beat it. So if you continue with your smartphone like this, and you continue at your computer like this, and you continue with this forward head posture, this rounded shoulder posture, if you continue with that, it's going to get worse. There's no treatment, there's no amount of medication. Yes, you may take a very heavy-hitting pill that can decrease some of the inflammation for a little bit, but as long as you sit like this, it's going to come back, and it's going to come back worse and worse and worse. Eventually, the ice, the pills, whatever you're taking, the injections are not going to work because you're not fixing the problem. You're taking care of the inflammation, which for a little bit is great, but without actually fixing where the inflammation is coming from and what is causing the inflammation, you're not doing yourself any good. So if you don't address your posture and you don't change your posture and you don't watch your posture, you are not going to solve shoulder impingement, and it will become a rotator cuff tear eventually. So a word to the wise, it is not something that is going to be healed overnight. It is not something that you're like, oh, I got an injection, it feels great. It may feel great. You didn't address anything. It's coming back. And it may come back as a tear, it may come back worse than it was, it may come back as more of a tendonitis, so just be aware of that. So this is the posture that you want to get out of, this forward shoulder rounded posture where you're on your phone like this, where you're sitting at your laptop like this. What happens is when your shoulders come forward like this, it actually closes that space off. So while you're sitting like this, all you're doing is just pinching that muscle. It may not feel like you are right now, but what happens is over time, as you start to adjust your shoulder, so let's say you're typing, you're moving your shoulder. What happens is that little piece of muscle that's in between here and here starts to get irritated because you're moving your shoulder, you're moving your hands, you're moving around. So you're kind of pinching that muscle already when it's just like this. You don't feel it at first because that's not inflamed, it's not irritated. You can do this for a while and be totally fine. Eventually, it doesn't want to be squeezed. It doesn't want to be pinched. So as you sit like this and as you pinch that muscle off and as you squeeze that muscle, it's going to start to become inflamed. As it becomes inflamed, the muscle gets bigger. As the fluids flow into it, as the blood increases, as the swelling increases, it's going to get bigger. So then that little space that is there isn't enough. So then when you start to lift your arm overhead, you're going to wind up with that pinching pain. Okay, so the first thing you absolutely have to do is one, fix your posture. Fix your posture when you're on your phone, fix your posture when you're at your computer, fix your posture in bed, whatever it is that you are deficient in your posture, you need to make sure that you fix it. And like I said, we have a ton of other videos that go over that, so we're not going to go over everything right here, but first thing you want to do is just roll your shoulders up, back, and drop them down. Most people will find that they are up here and they're elevated. So this brings me to my second point on what you're going to do to fix your shoulder impingement is you're going to watch this movement. So a lot of times when you have shoulder impingement, you're either going to shrug your shoulder to lift up your arm, okay? Or you're going to lift up your arm, or you're going to lift up your arm and then shrug your shoulder, or you're going to actually tilt your neck, okay? Somehow this is going to get compressed, all right? So you could have headaches, you could have numbness and tingling, and it's all because of this. As you start to lift and the pinching happens, you don't want the movement to come through your shoulder anymore. You don't want the movement to come through your arm anymore. So what do? You just shrug your shoulder, and all of a sudden your arm goes up higher, okay? And you didn't actually have to move your arm. You just shrug your shoulder. This is 100% natural. It's a movement that you don't know is occurring. If you watch yourself in the mirror, a lot of times people will go, oh my gosh, I had no idea I was doing that. It's just something that when your body starts to lift its arm and it starts to pinch, it's going to be, whoa, I don't want to do that. So it's going to naturally start to elevate this, okay? So what you want to do is you want to first of all start by watching how you lift your arm overhead. And I suggest doing just simple arm raises in front of a mirror so you can watch yourself. Push your shoulder down, watch yourself, bring your arm up. It's going to feel really weird, especially if you've been doing this for a while, okay? And a lot of you are going to walk around like this. So you start with your shoulders up like this, then you bring them up, okay? So stand in front of the mirror, roll your shoulders up, back, drop them down, and then nice and easy, you're just going to lift, okay? Nothing crazy. Again, make sure that it's nice and controlled and you're watching that you're not doing this. As often as you can, make sure you're watching yourself push your shoulder down. All right, and the final thing you want to do is you want to work the muscles that actually bring your arm down. So we work a lot of this because we're all stressed and we're all like this and we're in this posture and these muscles up here are getting worked significantly, but those are unfortunately the muscles that will pull this up and then cause it to actually close that tunnel. So as this comes up and this comes up, that tunnel closes and you get that pinching feeling again. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you are working the muscles that will actually help bring your shoulders down. So that's just a scap depression, we call it. So you can start by just actually punching a table. So you want to make sure that your arm is straight and you're pushing down. It's not a big movement. As you can see, my shoulder just goes down a little bit and comes back up. Down and come back up. This is the simplest way to start. It's very easy. You can also do it with a cable overhead if you pull down, and it'll help you up on the shrug and then push down. It'll help you up on the shrug and then push down. All right, those are going to help your scapular depressors, or the muscles that will actually bring that muscle or bring those bones down, allowing for that muscle to have some space and not be as compressed as it is when it's going through that tunnel and your shoulders are elevated and these muscles are working harder. If you do have shoulder pain, and you think you have shoulder impingement and you want a consultation, a free consultation with a doctor of physical therapy, all you have to do is call our office at 215-997-9898 and we'll be glad to get you in. Thanks and have a good night.